Most people assume the United States already fields the most powerful bomber force on Earth. Inside the Pentagon, that assumption shaped strategy for decades. But recently, something unusual started happening. Military planners began quietly discussing whether America might need twice as many stealth bombers as originally planned. Not 100, 200 B-21 Raiders. That is a significant shift for one of the most expensive aircraft programs ever built, and a signal that the strategic calculus inside Washington has fundamentally changed. The B-21 Raider is the United States' next-generation stealth bomber, developed by Northrop Grumman to replace aging aircraft. When unveiled in December 2022 in Palmdale, California, the plan appeared straightforward: build at least 100 bombers, retire the B-1 and B-2, and secure long-range strike capability for decades. But behind the scenes, war planners were running large-scale simulations, stress-testing potential conflicts against technologically advanced rivals. And in scenario after scenario, one uncomfortable conclusion kept surfacing. The problem was not whether the B-21 could reach its targets. The problem was whether the United States would have enough of them. The next potential conflict would not be contained to a small region. It would stretch across the entire Indo-Pacific, thousands of kilometers of ocean, scattered air bases, and missile systems capable of striking those bases in the opening minutes of a war. Suddenly, the question was no longer about building a better bomber. Did the United States build too small of a bomber fleet? That question is now driving a serious debate inside Washington, one that could reshape the future of American air power. And to understand it, you have to go back to a quiet decision made long before the B-21 ever existed. At the height of the Cold War, the United States maintained an enormous bomber force. Strategic bombers were one of the three pillars of nuclear deterrence, capable of launching from domestic bases, crossing continents, and striking deep inside enemy territory. Unlike ballistic missiles, they could be recalled after takeoff, giving commanders critical decision-making time. At its peak, the United States operated more than 2,500 strategic bombers. Aircraft like the B-52, B-47, B-1, and B-2 formed the backbone of American long-range strike power. But when the Cold War ended, Washington made a different calculation. The Soviet Union was gone. Large-scale bombing campaigns seemed like a relic. The fleet was cut dramatically. Entire aircraft types retired, production lines shut down, the inventory falling year after year. By the early 2000s, the force had shrunk to fewer than 160 aircraft, and those that remained were aging. The B-52 entered service in the 1950s. The B-1 was designed in the 1970s. Even the B-2 first flew in the late 1980s, and only 20 were ever built. That last number became a critical constraint. Stealth bombers are the only aircraft designed to penetrate advanced air defense networks. With just 20 of them, the United States had a sharply limited ability to conduct those missions. At the time, that seemed acceptable. Post-Cold War operations mostly involved opponents with weak air defenses, where fighters, drones, and cruise missiles were sufficient. The assumption was simple: future wars would look like these wars. But while the United States was cutting its fleet, other nations were building exactly the systems designed to stop traditional aircraft. The math that once justified a smaller force was quietly becoming obsolete. By the early 2010s, the problem could no longer be ignored. The bomber fleet was shrinking, most aircraft were decades old, and potential adversaries were fielding more advanced air defense systems every year. China and Russia were deploying layered radar networks, long-range surface-to-air missiles, and hardened facilities engineered to survive air attacks, many of them specifically designed to detect and destroy stealth aircraft. The implication was stark. In a future war against a technologically advanced opponent, most U.S. aircraft might not reach their targets at all. So in 2014, the U.S. Air Force launched the Long-Range Strike Bomber program. The mission: design a stealth bomber capable of penetrating the most advanced air defense networks in the world, flying extreme distances, carrying conventional and nuclear weapons, and remaining adaptable for decades. Northrop Grumman won the contract over the Boeing Lockheed Martin team. The aircraft eventually received its name, the B-21 Raider, a tribute to the Doolittle Raiders who struck Japan in the Second World War. The B-21 uses a flying wing design similar to the B-2, but built with modern digital engineering that allowed virtual design and testing before physical production began. This reduced development risk and enabled continuous upgrades over the aircraft's service life. It also incorporates open architecture software, meaning sensors, communication systems, and weapons can be updated far faster than on legacy platforms. It was not simply a new bomber. It was a platform designed to improve over time. When unveiled in December 2022, the plan called for at least 100 B-21 aircraft, followed by gradual retirement of older platforms. That number seemed reasonable, until analysts started modeling what future conflicts would actually require. For years, U.S. strategy rested on a foundational belief: stealth aircraft would maintain a decisive advantage in any high-end conflict. That belief is now under serious pressure. Over the past 2 decades, China has built one of the most complex air defense architectures ever constructed. The system integrates long-range radar, satellite tracking, electronic warfare, and multiple tiers of surface-to-air missiles, all networked so that radar stations, missile batteries, and command centers share targeting data in real time. Some missiles can engage targets hundreds of kilometers away. Others are specifically engineered to track stealth aircraft. This is not a collection of isolated weapons. It is a coherent system designed to deny access to an entire region. For traditional aircraft, this environment is extremely dangerous. Fighter jets would have to operate within range of laid defenses from the moment they enter the theater. Forward air bases across the Indo-Pacific could be struck by ballistic or cruise missiles before a single combat sortie is launched. That leaves only a narrow category of aircraft capable of reaching high-value targets deep inside defended territory. Stealth bombers. In theory, a sufficient fleet could penetrate Chinese defenses and destroy critical nodes, missile launches, radar installations, command infrastructure, degrading the system enough for other aircraft to enter the fight. It is a logical sequence, but analysts examining this scenario noticed something troubling. Even if individual stealth bombers can penetrate successfully, the scale of the battlefield demands far more aircraft than originally planned. Strikes would need to be sustained across vast distances, against a distributed and redundant network, over an extended period. That introduces a challenge no single aircraft can solve on its own: distance. The Indo-Pacific introduces a problem most military planners had not seriously confronted for decades: distance. The Pacific Ocean is vast. Conflict zones are separated by thousands of kilometers. Air bases are scattered across islands and coastlines that could be struck by missiles before a conflict reaches its first major engagement. In previous conflicts, the U.S. military relied on forward air bases close to the battlefield. Fighters, tankers, and surveillance aircraft operated within manageable range. That model worked. A Western Pacific conflict would look fundamentally different. Many U.S. bases in the region sit within range of Chinese ballistic and cruise missiles. Those runways could be struck in the opening hours, disabling large portions of the tactical fleet before a single sortie is flown. Surviving bases would face persistent follow-on attacks, forcing aircraft into degraded operating patterns. And even when runways are intact, fighters face a hard physical limit: range. Most tactical jets cannot reach key targets deep inside contested territory without extensive aerial refueling. Those tanker aircraft would themselves become priority targets: slow, large, and difficult to protect across Indo-Pacific distances. Stealth bombers solve this directly. They can launch from the continental United States, cross the Pacific, penetrate defended airspace, strike targets thousands of kilometers inside enemy territory, and return. That combination of range, payload, and survivability makes them uniquely irreplaceable in this theater. But this logic changes the mathematics of military planning in a critical way. If stealth bombers must carry the primary strike burden, while tactical aircraft are grounded, suppressed, or out of range, the entire weight of early operations falls on a small fleet. And the United States currently has very few of them. Then something unusual happened. In 2025 and 2026, the Pentagon approved a major expansion of B-21 production infrastructure. Approximately $4.5 billion was allocated to increase manufacturing capacity. Factories were modernized, production lines upgraded, and the overall industrial capacity to build the aircraft grew by roughly 25%. On the surface, that might seem routine. Defense programs regularly invest in production improvements as they move from testing into full-rate manufacturing. But something did not add up. The official procurement target had not changed. The Air Force still publicly stated the plan called for at least 100 B-21 bombers. Yet the Pentagon was expanding factories capable of producing significantly more aircraft than that number requires. Why invest billions in capacity for aircraft that have not been ordered? Defense manufacturing infrastructure is not built casually. It is expensive, slow to construct, and nearly impossible to scale once a conflict has begun. Specialized equipment must be sourced. Skilled workforces take years to train. Supply chains for composite materials, stealth coatings, and advanced avionics require long lead times. A nation cannot rapidly manufacture complex stealth aircraft from a standing start during a war. The production base must exist before it is needed. By investing now, before any official announcement of increased procurement, the Pentagon was purchasing optionality. It was quietly preparing for the possibility that the B-21 fleet would need to grow well beyond its original ceiling. That preparation pointed to a concern analysts had been raising for years. 100 stealth bombers might not be enough. But how many would actually be required? The answer lay in the numbers, and the numbers were more concerning than most expected. When analysts examined the U.S. bomber force in detail, a different picture emerged, one that did not match the confident posture the fleet projects on paper. The current strategic bomber inventory consists of 3 types. Around 70 B-52 bombers, designed in the 1950s, roughly 60 B-1 bombers, built in the 1980s, and just 20 B-2 stealth bombers, the only aircraft currently capable of operating inside advanced, layered air defense networks. That force is already small relative to a peer conflict, but the problem compounds over time. The B-1 is expected to retire in the coming years. The B-2 will eventually be replaced by the B-21. Even the modernized B-52 is an A-frame more than 7 decades old. This creates a dangerous transition window, potentially years long, during which the United States could be operating its smallest bomber force in the modern era, while the B-21 fleet is still ramping up. Studies modeling large-scale conflict scenarios reach consistent conclusions. A fleet of 100 stealth bombers could execute short, concentrated strike operations effectively. But sustaining pressure across a prolonged campaign against a major power would require far more aircraft. In the language circulating inside defense policy circles, 100 B-21s would function as a raid force, not a campaign force. Maintenance cycles, combat losses, and aircrew rotation would erode effective availability well below the headline number. Sustaining long-range strike operations over weeks or months of major conflict would push a fleet that size to its breaking point. Some analysts concluded the requirement could reach 200 B-21 bombers, not as an ambition, but as a strategic minimum. And once that number entered the conversation, the entire debate shifted. The debate around 200 B-21 bombers is not about building a larger fleet for its own sake. It is about how the United States now expects future wars to unfold, and whether current force structure can meet those demands. For 3 decades, American military power was built around a specific kind of conflict. Air bases were secure, enemy defenses were limited. Fighters, drones, and cruise missiles carried the fight from protected forward positions. That model won wars. A conflict against a technologically advanced rival would look nothing like that. Air defenses would be deeply layered. Missile strikes could shut down forward bases in the opening hours. The battlefield would span thousands of kilometers, far beyond the range of most tactical aircraft. In that environment, long-range stealth bombers stop being one option among many. They become one of the only reliable ways to strike critical targets when other platforms cannot reach them. They can launch from continental bases, penetrate defended airspace, and destroy high-value targets even when forward access is denied. But that role places enormous weight on fleet size. If stealth bombers must carry the primary strike burden across a sustained conflict, 100 aircraft cannot hold that load indefinitely, not after accounting for maintenance, losses, and rotation. That is why 200 B-21s has moved from a fringe argument to a serious planning consideration. Not because the Pentagon has officially announced the number, but because the strategic environment is forcing a harder look. China's capabilities are expanding. The Indo-Pacific presents challenges unlike anything since the Second World War. And the existing bomber fleet is aging faster than its replacement is being built. The B-21 Raider is not filling a gap. It is becoming the centerpiece of how the United States projects power across intercontinental distances in an era of great power competition. And once that question is asked honestly, the number 200 stops sounding extreme. It starts to sound like a flaw.